You're muted. You're muted.
Am I good now? Okay.
Yeah, you got
All
it.
right.
What up?
Mute monster got me. Welcome everybody to episode 192 of Two Goalies, One Mic, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from at 6 different Western New York locations. If you need a beer, make it a Fatty Beer. Make sure if you are a high school or college hockey player, sign up for their FHL league starting here very shortly in June. They're going to have their combine. Make sure you go check them out at fattybeer.com. Find them at FHL on Twitter. Big news. I know we're supposed to be joined here in a minute by Chris, but huge news in Saberland. Of course, it happens when I'm not like readily by my phone.
Of course.
Sabres hire a guy that was near the top of my list for, former executives, GMs that I was interested in this senior advisor role, and Jarmo Kekäläinen, former GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets, a guy who had a ton of success there. Some of you might remember him from the 2019 season as the guy who made some really gutsy moves at the trade deadline, acquiring not just Artemi Panarin, but Matt Duchene, and Seth Jones. So, and they went on to sweep the 62-win Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round that year, only to, I think, lose in the second round. I can't remember who, but just a great hire. Super stoked, and even more stoked to be joined here by a good friend of mine from high school and fellow Sabres fan, Shawn Vaccaro from the Step Brothers Pod.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am doing great. What a great day. And as you can see on the video side, I am not Connor, but I will try my best to fill in his large shoes. Yeah, man, it's a great day, man. I'm very excited, just like you. He was definitely up near the top of my list of people that you would want to grab that's available at the moment. And, just for the sake of time, I know Chris Maz will be jumping in. As you know, I'm a business guy, so I have a big meeting coming up at 12:30. So can I just riff? Can I give you some of my quick thoughts before I have to jump off?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, man. So Jarmo, great hire, and I don't want to steal your thunder. I want to make sure that you get the credit where it's due, but love to see what Mr. Harrington had to say to you, which basically was hire somebody. So knowing that was kind of the background about what needed to happen based on directive from the top of the organization. This is a significant hire. Not only the name, but like just going over. I did a deep dive into some of Jarmo's statistics. Obviously, he had a playing career for multiple teams, including Boston and Ottawa. But this guy had a 10-plus year, 11-year career as Columbus's GM, hired as a senior advisor, and just some of those teams he had were really good, man. In 11 years, they made the playoffs 7 times, including a bunch. Like he had a streak of playoff teams. He had a 108-point team in 16-17. A really strong hire that Kevyn will have in his ear basically to make some of these decisions. I'm actually really excited, man. And then also too, just the sake of seeing what Mike had said to you in your message, that Terry is alive and well and hire somebody. It shows that there's going to be a little bit of a level of accountability for once moving forward. It's a great day, man, to be a Sabres fan.
No, definitely. In previous conversations with Mike on Two Goalies with Mike, I guess that Kevyn did all the interviewing, was going to be doing all the interviewing, which again, it's a great hire. He has a very big, very good resume. I'm going to bring up here in a moment, just kind of, most notably his time spent with Columbus, but he had time spent with St. Louis before that. I forget the other team he was. I believe he ran their scouting department. Might have been St. Louis. I don't know, but again, a guy in terms of his ability to recognize talent and scouting, he's really honestly second to none in this organization. And it's for a scouting staff that has really suffered over the past couple of years, going back to COVID, where they kind of really thinned it out. Bringing in a guy like Jarmo Kekäläinen really brings a kind of a feeling of respect back to the organization, because it's not just some the big thing is he's not just some like retread guy or some former player in the organization. He's from outside the organization. And I can't imagine that he's going to be a yes man for said organization. So that's what I like the most about this hire is outside of the fact that it's the ability to recognize issues with it, within the team, recognize talent. We get ready to get here in the draft. You're bringing him just in time. And again, free agency, just recognizing maybe certain players out there in free agency that might best fit the mold of the core of this team. So, and we talked about the chat. Maybe Matt Duchene, who's a UFA, becomes all of a sudden available to the Buffalo Sabres because he traded for it once before. Right.
Yeah, there's that relationship there. And just as Chris Maz jumps in, look, we got this guy. He's live and direct on the nature trail, I see.
Yep, down in the Outer Banks, baby.
Love it.
Well, Chris, I love it.
I got to tell you, so Dwayne, to your point, and Chris, if you didn't know, so his Yarko is passed, or Jarmo rather. So yeah, he was with Ottawa in 2002. He was the head of player personnel when they selected Hossa, Havlat, Emery, and then you were right again when he went to the Blues and was the assistant GM and director of amateur scouting. Pietrangelo, Oshie, Berglund. Yeah. Big names.
A lot of noteworthy names on his resume for sure, especially ones that we're very familiar with. I'm sure we could all roll our eyes collectively when we see Patrick Berglund's name, though.
Yeah. Well, Berglund at one point when he was with St. Louis wasn't a bad player. It's just when he came to Buffalo, like Ryan O'Reilly, lost his love for the game. Or just any willingness to play. As I said to Shawn here, Chris, this definitely kind of brings in a little bit of more of a respectability, if that's a real word, to the organization. Because Jarmo Kekäläinen, he's just not a guy. He's not some random hire that nobody's ever heard of. There's a lot of respect that comes with his name and a lot of, experience, to your point, at the draft, in scouting. I mean, he's kind of done just about every position except head coach in terms of the front office and staff.
For sure. I mean, heck, even when his time in the Blue Jackets, didn't exactly end the greatest. I mean, he brought in big name talent. Heck, he brought in Johnny Hockey, RIP, of course. But at the same time, he got a level of resurgence out of them. They had a couple playoff runs under his tenure with the Blue Jackets. I mean, you got, like you said, Dwayne, a very reputable name and somebody to really, truly respect finally in the organization.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. Your thoughts, Shawn?
Yeah, man. I mean, absolutely. I think it's a dawn of a new day, man. Like, I half expected some type of a move to happen, but his name wouldn't have been the one. I was expecting an underwhelming hire. Somebody that was like, okay, we made the move that we were supposed to make, but they hired a very strong hockey guy, like a guy whose experience far and success, for that matter, far outweighs that of Kevyn Adams. So that kind of, in a way, gives me confidence in Kevyn Adams. It's like, okay, the team hasn't been as nearly, obviously, as successful as it should be with the talent that we've amassed over the last, handful of drafts and whatnot. We haven't made the playoffs, and we know it's a crazy streak, the longest in the league. You have to do things differently. You got to bring not a yes guy in, like we said. You got to bring in a guy with a proven track record that can push you to be better. And if things aren't working, a guy that probably pushes Kevyn out the door. But it's for the greater good of the team, man, and that's why I'm excited about this.
Yeah, and another thing too, I think Kevyn, he can read through the tea leaves, right? Like, he knows if things go off the rails during the season, he's done. There's no way you can justify keeping him around any longer. So, like, having a guy like Kekalainen already there, kind of just like that makes that transition quite easy. And again, it's not like he's not a guy who doesn't have experience being a GM. And I guess he's going to be answering directly to Kevyn Adams, who I'm assuming is still obviously reporting to Terry. But I mean, other news that came out of this too is they're not done. Apparently they still plan on adding more people to their front staff, and maybe hopefully we see some changes in the coaching staff, because that's also been a hot button issue as well.
Completely agree with that. I mean, at this point, I think you had mentioned in our chat that a lot of the coaching staff was in on a recent meeting, which kind of gives you a little bit of a dead inside feeling with the rest of the coaching staff, especially when you think of like Mike Bales and Marty Wolford. And I mean, just a lot of just ineptitude that you've seen in previous years that you just hope that Lindy could have a little bit more say in who his real coaching staff should be for this coming year. And ultimately, maybe some of these people that they do bring on could bring in some talent from outside the organization, whether it's in free agency or through a trade. That way, again, that there's some familiarity with working with some of these coaches, that could be another leg up for just getting some real true recruitment.
I couldn't agree with you more. Your thoughts, Shawn, before you got to get out of here.
Yeah, I was going to just say, Chris Maz, like, your point is spot on. But I think after, and again, there's been, I guess, some refute to the reports that came out on Sabres Twitter in regard to, Frank Saravelli and the rebuttal to that. But if there is some truth, and I'm sure there is, maybe not to the extent that it's been suggested that a quarter of the team has discontent. Okay, like that's probably true. I'm sure there's some malcontent players on this team, but what could be better than making a move like this that's going to be like heard around the world and respected in hockey circles, that good players can look at this move and say, okay, here's something that's completely different since I've been in the league in my career for whatever it is, veterans, 5, 10 seasons, whatever it is. Wow, the Sabres did something that they haven't done, in my time in the league. So they clearly are looking to do something different. And maybe that not only, like Chris said, attracts players from the outside, but maybe that kind of reconfirms some of the current people on the team that maybe have wanted to change the scenery. Maybe this gets them to buy in again, and maybe they'll want to stay and sign. Who knows?
Yeah, because I'm also at the point, too, with this Eric Stahl hiring, because he is still only going to be Dwight Schrute to me as assistant to the general manager, unless there's actually something of substance. And I mentioned this on our most recent pod on Step Brother Sports the other day. And unless he is the reason why there's a substantial move or recruiting done, I'm only going to see that as just window dressing at this point. Jarmo right now is the biggest move, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could agree with you more. And Colin Smith here in the chat, he's made big trades, free agent signings, so makes me less worried when we go ball this summer, hopefully. And you kind of wonder how much this might change the dynamic of maybe players they target, come the draft, and especially free agency. There's some, we talk a lot about Mitch Marner, but how he's not afraid, we have seen, to go after the big fish, right? He's traded for Artemi Panarin. The Pierre-Luc Dubois stuff. He knows how valuable a guy like Mitch Marner could be, or if going beyond that, maybe Sam Bennett, or if you're looking at the defensive side of things, I highly doubt it'll ever happen, but Aaron Ekblad. Right. There's, his ability to recognize talent and how they'll fit the mold of this team, at least in this organization as it sits right now, is second to none. And I'm just excited to see how this might change the blueprint of the way the offseason might go.
Absolutely. No, it's exciting. Like I said, and you guys know I have to jump, but I thought it was important to just get on here, have some initial takes. I'm sure that we'll learn more and more as the hours and the next couple of days go on, especially as the playoffs wind down. But very, very exciting time, and I'm sure we'll be talking again. I know there's been talk of maybe us doing something live on Twitter later, which I definitely want to jump back in on and give more thoughts. But love you boys. Enjoy talking about the Sabres. Go Sabres, man. It's a good day. Fans should be really excited, man.
Yep. Thanks for hopping on, Shawn.
Catch you later, Shawn.
Get you out of here. Chris, how's the Outer Banks treating you?
Oh, could not be better. We had a little bit of rain, kind of like what you guys, I think, had earlier throughout the week. I think the whole East Coast was just in real rough shape, just as far as weather goes. But Outer Banks is primo condition at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't been on vacation, and I really don't know how long. With the situation with the leg, kind of hard, makes it difficult for me to get around.
I was gonna say everybody deserves a vacation, Dwayne. Make it happen.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. I'll meet on to Florida, see some family. So I'm going down here, kind of looking at Jarmo's resume. As we brought up before, Kekalainen, first European-born general manager in NHL history, was appointed the GM of the Columbus Blue Jackets back in 2013. During his 11-year tenure, he led the Blue Jackets to 5 Stanley Cup playoff appearances, including a franchise record 4 consecutive playoff bursts from 2016 to 2020. His most celebrated achievement, orchestrating a stunning 2019 playoff sweep against the Tampa Bay Lightning with a record-breaking 62-win regular season, marking a significant milestone for the franchise. From scouting and I'm getting all this information from Grok, essentially.
Yeah, and that was also, I think, when Tortorella was the coach of the Blue Jackets.
Yep. Drafting and scouting success. Kekalainen's background in scouting honed as director of amateur scouting for the St. Louis Blues from 2002 to 2010, and with the Ottawa Senators from 95 to 2002, contributed to his ability to identify talent. He was instrumental in drafting NHL stars like TJ Oshie, Alex Pietrangelo, David Perron, David Backes, Jason Spezza, Marian Hossa, and Martin Havlat. That is an impressive list, Chris.
For sure. The resume speaks for itself, and the fact that he has such a big background in scouting can hopefully show that some of these later picks in the later rounds of drafts, because you mentioned somebody like TJ Oshie. He was, I believe, like a third or a fourth round pick, and he became an all-star level player, Stanley Cup champion back in 2018. So, again, the resume speaks for itself as far as the scouting prowess goes. But, I mean,
was a late-round pick, too.
Right. That's exactly right. So,
he's the third round, sorry. But still.
Yeah, but you hear some of these names, and their names we're familiar with after playing against so many of them in the past. You mentioned Jason Spezza. I mean, many of us remember both of the playoff series in 06, 07 years. And, I mean, it's just an 05, 06 season as well, of course. But still, the fact that so much of his background is in scouting, he's attracted these big-name talent players. It just shows that there's a good sense of credibility behind the Jarmo Kekäläinen hiring.
Yep. In terms of just roster moves, Kekalainen made high-profile acquisitions, including signing Johnny Gaudreau, which I think everybody was really surprised when he decided to go to Columbus, given the teams that were kind of in the conversation to sign him. I mean, including Calgary, who was still trying to make a strong push. The top free agent of 2022, which helped shift perceptions about Columbus as a desirable destination for players. Now, that right there, that whole statement right there, Johnny Gaudreau, I mean, I don't know if you would put him in the same, and again, I think Johnny Hockey was a phenomenal talent. There's no question in that, but I think Mitch Marner is a great comparable to the impact Johnny Gaudreau has on a team, and knowing that he went out and made a bold move signing that guy back in 2022, kind of gives you hope for this offseason. But you have to remember, is Terry going to be willing to spend to the cap? That's the big question.
Well, it's starting to show maybe cracks of that changing. I mean, the fact that he is paying more money to somebody like assistant to the general manager Eric Stahl. I don't know why I said Nick Stahl there, but still. And now you have this hiring of Kekalainen. Like, maybe there's a little bit sense of like, hey, he's finally starting to realize, like, I need to do more to make this team a contender in a true sense of the word. Because for too long, as we've just lamented year after year, we've complained about the fact that we have a bare bones front office. The Sabres have continued to just never spend to the cap. Maybe that's finally just because after just years of anguish that not only we've seen, but now they've experienced for themselves, and you hear just constant fire Kevyn chants in the stands. Hey, something may have finally broken maybe after that long road trip that he took earlier towards the spring. I think it was like the 3 or 4 game road trip he took with Kevyn Adams.
Yep. And you want to talk about prospects? Say, how is this guy when it comes to building building a good prospect pool? When he was at Columbus, he constructed one of the NHL's top prospect pools, ranked 3rd by The Athletic, with talents like Kent Johnson out of Michigan, Cole Sillinger, Kirill Marchenko, David Jiricek, and Denton Matichuk, positioning the Blue Jackets for future success. Not to mention another name not in there, Adam Fantilli. It was Fantilli after he was given the X. I don't know.
I believe so, yes.
Might have been, okay. But still, I mean, that was an easy pick for any GM. You would have been on that too. But yeah, he knows how to build a good prospect pool. He understands the importance of development. But he also understands that you can't always just, hold on to all of your prospects, all of your picks. When you're at a point in your team's tenure where it's time to turn those players you've already drafted into assets to make your team better, he's not going to be afraid to pull the trigger. I know he's not the GM. He's not the GM, but he's a guy there that's going to be advising Kevyn on what moves to make.
just the fact that he's another voice in the room, just having Kevyn Adams not be like the sole judgment maker in some key decisions, whether it's free agency or parts in the draft. I mean, we have the scouting combine coming to Buffalo next week, and many front office and executives are going to be coming down to the city. And this is probably one of the last major times where teams are going to be able to just interact with each other in a more extended basis, not only just scouting prospects, but maybe potentially setting up future deals. So this is a crucial time for Kekalainen to be really added to the staff. And I hope it's really going to be just paying dividends, especially starting next week.
Yep, I agree. I think we're going to do potentially maybe do a spaces tonight to given the amount of time. I know we discussed it in the chat. I personally never done a spaces with two goalies on me before, so this will be interesting. But I definitely want to hear other people's thoughts on the excitement surrounding this hire. I'm sure there's a lot of Sabres fans that aren't familiar with him, but I can promise you this guy does fit the mold of what this team needs, given that position. I hope that this isn't just a guy who's going to answer to Kevyn and Kevin's not going to take his opinion seriously. I know he likes to hire friends like Eric Stahl and, Matt Ellis is still with the coaching staff. I know there is a friendship between Kekalainen and Kevyn Adams, but that being said, this isn't him just hiring a friend. This is him hiring a guy that's going to come in and make improvements to this team or, give the right advice to make improvements to this team.
Yeah, and we hope it, like you already alluded to in your conversation with Mike Harrington. Nice job again with that. You can only hope that only more great things are to come with this front office. You could get more bigger name talent or people with greater resumes just to attract better veteran NHL players as opposed to just being continuously the youngest team in the league. And then ultimately, again, the drought may finally be broken. But I mean, hey, this is a great signing in the moment. We just need to see the next steps going forward.
Yep, I agree. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Chris? I just wanted to get out of here with a quick hit pod and just kind of give our general reaction to the hire and hopefully what it means for the team going into the draft. Obviously you mentioned the scouting combine coming here in a week. If it'll change the way they look at certain players. I know he has been very, he has a lot of success in drafting European players, given that he's Finnish. But just your final thoughts on everything.
Like I said before, I think just the fact that we have a reputable name, like a desired name, and most are already viewing, just seeing the initial reaction on this, it's a positive hiring. Some people are like, hey, I've seen just some reactions saying, oh, he's kind of less, you could compare him to Darcy. He's only really been a GM of one team. Well, that's great. He's been a general manager of one team, means he's been in the driver's seat before. He knows how to handle big, crucial decisions, and he's already shown that he's already capable of doing such in crunch time, especially like we already mentioned, some of the bigger moves he's had in the past. But ultimately, again, I'm just ready for the next steps. Unrelated, I'm actually also looking forward to the rematch in the Stanley Cup Final, Panthers-Oilers. So I think we got an electric matchup for us ahead of us. And I also think Skinner, as much as we all roll our eyes at many former Sabres, wanting to getting the chance to hoist the cup, I'm rooting for him. I mean, last year I was on and off for who I was really pulling for between the Oilers and Panthers, but this year it's Skinner all the way.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to root for Edmonton. I mean, I'm a big, McDavid needs to win a cup guy, just because it's Connor McDavid, and it's kind of criminal in my eyes that he hasn't won one yet, given the seasons he's had and how good of a hockey player he is.
He's won a Conn Smythe, but not a cup yet.
Yeah, exactly. But seeing Jeff Skinner score that goal last night, that was incredible. Hopefully he sticks in this lineup here and helps contribute to them winning a cup. Obviously it sucks that Zach Hyman, has to miss the rest of the playoffs due to injury, but given that, it comes opportunity, and Jeff slid into the lineup and did his job and did it well enough and scored a meaningful goal. So, and it would have ended up, I believe it was the third goal of the game, I think. So
right. It was a nice cushion goal that he had. And even with some of his play, I was observing throughout the second and third period, he was doing pretty good with just being a little pest defensively. Yep. So again, easy to root for the Oilers this time around. Not that I truly hate or despise the Panthers, but I mean, it'd be nice to see one, a different team winning. Yes, Oilers have a storied history of winning many Stanley Cups in the past, but still, somebody different. You get ultimately the feel-good story for us with Jeff Skinner. Like, because again, I know a lot of people were disappointed to see him go, but then the buyout happened. But still, easy to root for him.
Very easy to root for him. There's some fans in the comments that are just like, he just stole, he essentially stole money from us. He was terrible defensively. He's part of the problem. I'm like, listen, Jeff Skinner wasn't the problem of this team. You know what I mean? He's an easy scapegoat given the analytics. If that's that's your cup of tea, and I understand that he wasn't a great two-way player, but the guy scored 40 goals once, scored 30 twice, and scored another season with 20 goals in his 6 seasons with Buffalo. Guy had a great tenure as a Buffalo Sabre. Was part of a lot of exciting moments on and off the ice. Obviously, the between two stalls stuff was always cracked me up. But
can't forget the goal songs either.
Yeah, also just a really good role model if you're trying to find a guy to be one in terms of former Buffalo Sabres. Like, he was just a good dude. Always smiling, always laughing, and from everything we saw, was a great teammate. So I'm extremely excited for Jeff. I hope he gets the race to the Lord Stanley's Cup. And to your point, like, he's one of those former Sabres. I won't gripe about it all if he wins a cup.
Yeah, same here, Dwayne. Thanks for getting this thing fired up. Hey, let's look for great things to come.
Yep. This has been episode 192 of Two Goalies, One Mike. Sabres hire Jarmo Kekäläinen to be their senior advisor. Stay tuned for more. And remember, this is brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room. Until next time, as always, go Sabres.